can AI actually create 3D models that are good enough to be printed on a real 3D printer? That's what we're going to find out today. I decided to create 8 completely different 3D models using AI, print every single one of them, and then see how they actually perform in the real world. And the interesting part is that I didn't model these objects myself. Everything started inside Tripo. From the initial idea to generating the 3D model to preparing it for printing. Before we start creating the models, let me quickly show you what we're working with. This is Tripo, an AI-powered 3D creation platform that can generate 3D models from text prompts or reference images. So instead of opening a traditional 3D modeling program and spending hours building something from scratch, we can start with an idea and let AI generate the initial 3D model for us. And there are several different tools available inside the platform. We have text to 3D, image to 3D, image generation, and additional tools like segmentation and animation. For this video, I'm going to focus mainly on the 3 workflows that are most interesting for 3D printing. And the goal isn't just to generate something that looks good on the screen. The real test is whether these models can actually become physical objects. And if you want to try Tripo for yourself, you can use my code 8YT669 to get 500 free credits when you sign up. I'll leave all the details in the description. So let's start with text to 3D. For the first model, I wanted something that would really test the geometry and level of detail that the AI could generate. So I went with a fantasy dragon. The idea is pretty simple. Describe what I want, generate the model, and see what Tripo comes up with. And this is the result. Honestly, this is already pretty impressive. We have the wings, the horns, the scales, the claws, and all the smaller details that make the model actually look like a dragon, rather than just a generic creature. After generating the model, I can inspect it from different angles and then export it for the next step. After slicing the model, I sent it to the printer and let it do its thing. One thing I really wanted to see was how well those smaller details would survive the transition from an AI-generated mesh to an actual physical print. And this is the final result. The amount of detail in the final print is definitely one of the things that surprised me. For the second model, I wanted something completely different. So this time I went with a futuristic robot. And this is where the text to 3D workflow becomes really interesting. I'm not creating the geometry manually. I'm basically describing the type of object I want and letting the AI interpret that description. The generated model has a completely different design language from the dragon, but the workflow is exactly the same. Generate, inspect, export, and print. For the third text to 3D model, I wanted something with a lot of hard surface detail. So I decided to create a fantasy weapon. The idea was to make something that looks like a legendary collectible rather than just a generic sword. And again, the entire model was generated from the prompt. After exporting it, it was time to see how that design would translate into a real print. So that's 3 completely different objects created using the same basic text to 3D workflow. But text isn't the only way we can start. Let's move on to image to 3D. For the next 3 models, instead of describing everything with text, I started with reference images. This is useful when you already have a specific visual idea that would be difficult to describe with words. For the first one, I used a character reference. I simply uploaded the image into Tripo and let the platform turn that reference into a 3D model. And this is what it generated. What's interesting here is that we're going from a flat 2D reference to something that can actually be viewed from every angle and eventually turned into a physical object. And here's the final print. For the next one, I wanted to see how the same workflow would work with an animal. For this print, I used a photo of a crow as the reference image. Again, the process is very straightforward. Upload the reference, generate the 3D model, inspect the result, and then prepare it for printing. This is one of the things I like about image to 3D. Instead of having to explain every detail of the object through a text prompt, the image itself provides most of the visual information. And after printing, this is the result. For the third image to 3D model, I went with something more playful. I chose an image of a toy dinosaur as the reference. Once again, I started with a simple image reference, and Tripo converts that reference into a complete 3D model. At this point, we've already tested quite a few different shapes and styles, but there's still one more workflow I wanted to try. What happens if we combine an image reference with text instructions? For the first hybrid model, we started with an image of a simple, ordinary vase as our starting point. Then, using text instructions, we customized the design and added the details we wanted for the final piece. So instead of simply reproducing the original image, we can use it as a base and tell Tripo how we want to modify and personalize the final model. This gives us a little more control over the final result. And this is the generated model. After exporting it, I sent it to the printer. And here's the finished object. And finally, I wanted to create something that wasn't just decorative, but actually had a practical purpose. So I decided to make a desk organizer. I started with a reference image and then used text instructions to add specific functionality, including a dedicated space to hold a phone and other compartments for office supplies. The interesting thing here is that the image gives the AI the overall design language, while the text tells it what I want the final object to do. And this is the final generated model. After printing it, we finally have a completely functional object that started as an image and a simple text instruction. And now we have all 8 models, 8 completely different objects, created using 3 different AI workflows. But the biggest question is, were these models actually good enough to print? And honestly, I think the results are pretty interesting. Some models obviously perform better than others. The level of detail that survived the printing process was particularly impressive on some of the more complex models. Of course, AI isn't going to replace traditional 3D modeling in every situation. But as a way to quickly turn an idea into a printable starting point, this is extremely interesting. After testing all 8 models, I think it's safe to say that AI-generated 3D models have come a long way. Tripo makes it possible to go from a simple idea or reference image to an actual 3D model in a very short amount of time. If you want to try Tripo yourself, sign up for Tripo using my code 8YT669 to get 500 free credits within 24 hours, plus 60% off your first month with the discount code TripoCrew. You can also find the link in the description.